Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. So I bring this article from Fox News up because it cuts to the quick of what I'm going to talk about. And what they're saying in this article is that New York's unconstitutional concealed carry law is still in effect, and it goes on to tell you that they've been pressing more gun restrictions in New York that were already found illegal. For instance, you cannot have a concealed carry permit. They're still not issuing them despite the ruling that was just handed down by the federal court, the Supreme Court. They've locked out firearms or concealed carry specifically in Central Park. Okay, that goes against the 2A completely. So my question is, this continues to be a problem, that who polices the court system? Because it looks increasingly like the Department of Justice is very partisan right now and very much using politics to go after certain things without engaging in other things that are outright unconstitutional. How does the Supreme Court, or should the Supreme Court, be able to issue a bench warrant against things that they've said were outright illegal? So who polices the courts? And we're at this stage in the game nowadays that there's a two-tier justice system, and I've talked about it before. But if you're in New York and you're rich and you're powerful, they'll find a way to get you a concealed carry permit. Ask Donald Trump. He had one when he was in New York City. Ask a lot of the celebrities in New York. They can get them because they're celebrities. But what about the poor guy that owns the bodega down the street that needs a gun because he's taking cash to and from his business and the bank before he goes home at night? You know, crime keeps skyrocketing, but you're not allowed to defend yourself or defend your property, but they're allowed to beat you and take your stuff from you. We're at a very sharp crossroads where some people are just not going to comply. Why should they? And I ask this question because it's a very valid one. In today's society, if the politicians, the people in power, are not held to some sort of account, even after it is found in the rule of law, in a court of law, by trial or by however the process is, that they are in default, that they've screwed up, they're not fixing it. It's up to us people now. So why should we listen to these laws? There's going to be a lot of people that are starting to wake up and be even more red-pilled than they were, because this makes no sense. Think about that, man. I mean, when we go and we break the law, just speeding, we get pulled over, we get a ticket. Now, some of us will sign and say, hey, I'm going to court, or we'll plead and go through the process. Some of us will just plead guilty because we did something wrong. What about these people? Who stops them from doing this stuff? Who stops them from putting the boot on our neck? And we're rapidly approaching that place in time where those questions have to be answered. I don't want to get too political into the weeds about party, because this isn't, to me, a party issue. This really is a point where the Uniparty in Washington, D.C. is now deciding stuff, and that they're handing things down to people and powerful people in cities and states that have the power and clout consolidated so much to their person that they can make a decision like the mayor is in New York City. And the police are having to enforce that. Like, yeah, we're going to not let you own firearms. Now, I know the firearms thing in New York is a touchy subject for the New Yorkers themselves. Some of them want them, some of them don't. I understand. Whatever. My point is, the option should be there either way. And the option also should be that the minority isn't ruled by the majority. That's never how our country was designed to work. And when you say the majority is what wins all the time, that's great. But there's still a minority in the United States that needs to be spoken for. And any marginalized person, whether they believe in rights, whether they believe in other things, you, by your own admission, say they have a right to exist and to speak out and to do their thing. Well, this is ours. But seriously, this is a very important question because this is coming up more and more and more. During the pandemic, the CDC was given the power to rescind rent, so you didn't have to pay for rent. How do you, as a personal citizen, as a retiree that bought a rental property and that's how you sustain yourself, how are you supposed to exist if they're not paying you? How are you supposed to keep that property up? Okay, so they suspended them from getting paid. That doesn't sound like a big thing. Should the government have had that power? No. The courts ruled that they couldn't. That's why they're still not doing it. But they still pushed ahead with it and did it again until the courts ruled again that you couldn't do this. We're at that point where we've let the Uniparty in D.C. have too much power that they can make those arbitrary decisions that we have to live with. So I ask you, again, who polices the courts? And who polices the politicians when they ignore the courts? Because some of us behind the blue wall have tried to get someone out of power, but without their express permission from their second, we couldn't do it. Rumble, share, subscribe, vote your heart, vote your wallet, vote your brain, be informed, be great.